when you grow up here in Alabama, and it's really a way of life.
It's almost like a second religion to some people.
Let me tell you why. I grew up very poor in a very dysfunctional home. And when I played at the University of Alabama and I would hear those cheers, what those people were communicating to me was, Jeremiah, we love you. We love each other, and we live in the same neighborhoods, in the same homes. When it's time to play the game, you just find that people are competitive.
People come in regardless of, Alabama or Auburn, because we have so much disunity in the community.
It is a very deep, passionate,
of course, this year with my team not doing so well as they wanted to, everyone is kind of, urging me to say I'm an Auburn fan, which I don't hide that.
It's not that you hate each other, but that competitiveness. That, hey, this is my best buddy, but today, hey, guys.
We back. We back.
I want to beat you.
This is the WIAT Red Zone, brought to you by Pepsi.
The 80th edition of the Iron Bowl, and for everyone in the state of Alabama, it might as well be religion. Later today, 2:30 here on WIAT 42, either Alabama punches its ticket to the SEC title game, or Auburn comes away with one of the biggest upsets in this storied rivalry.
And the Auburn family hope to be part of a big upset today. Things can really get loud and rowdy here inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. Fans started showing up yesterday in anticipation for one of the biggest games in all of college football.
And we are here for the next 2 hours with so much great content. Alabama defensive lineman Delvin Tomlinson, the promise he made to his mother before she died. Auburn Heisman winner Pat Sullivan, his special relationship with a young man who touches the hearts of everyone at Samford. And Auburn assistant J.B. Grimes, what a story. His battle with cancer and how it inspired the entire Tiger team. That and so much more coming up again in the next 2 hours. And glad to have you with us on the Red Zone pregame show. Chris Brees, Lauren Sisler here until 1:30. We know what's at stake. Alabama cannot win the SEC title today. They can't go to the college football playoff today. That's why it's scary for them.
But this is exactly what I love about college football. All records out the window. It's 0-0 today. They come in here, the excitement that surrounds this Iron Bowl game. And for Alabama, they've got destiny dialed up. The Tide will extend their season with the trip to the SEC Championship game in Atlanta next weekend with the win here today. But for Alabama, finishing strong has not been a strength in recent years. They couldn't close things out in 2013, and in 2014, they didn't get the job done against Ohio State. Alabama head coach Nick Saban says that's been a focal point here late in the season.
We put a big emphasis on trying to finish, the year better. We made some adjustments in how we prepare and how we try to, keep our players fresh. We've also, tried to do some things to psychologically keep them where they need to be to try to have the best opportunity to finish. But I also think that, internally, from inside out, the players themselves, have affected each other in a positive way to try to finish the season the way, they want to.
Now, Auburn has already clinched a bowl berth, so a win today would mean the difference between a place like Birmingham, Memphis, Nashville for a bowl. So not a lot at stake with that, but you're forgetting one thing. Auburn can completely ruin Alabama's season today, and that is exactly what they are playing for.
We were happy to get that win, and now we do know we're going to a bowl, but this is Iron Bowl. I mean, all that stuff's great and all that, but you focus in on this game, and a very important game. Our players and our coaches understand that. It'll mean that, we beat our rival, which is very important to us and very important to this state.
And why has the Iron Bowl been so good the last decade? It always has national title implications. This will be the 7th straight year going back to 2009. The winner potentially could move on to play for the national title. No other rivalry in football has been able to say that over the past 10 years like the Iron Bowl has.
Now, this has been quite the season for the quarterback shuffle all across the SEC. Auburn thought they had locked up their quarterback last spring in Jeremy Johnson taking over for Nick Marshall, but it didn't take long to see that Heisman Trophy campaign slowly crumble as the season unfolded in the first 3 football games. Jeremy Johnson, he started those first 3 games for Auburn after throwing 6 interceptions while the coaching staff looked to redshirt freshman Sean White. White started 5 games, but midway through the season hurt his knee and has been battling ever since. Johnson started for Auburn against Idaho last Saturday, passing for 13 of 19 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 2 more on the ground. The coaching staff believes he's in a good place.
We feel good at this point knowing where Jeremy's at. And, the thing I liked the most yesterday is, and there was a couple we missed we should have hit, but he just had a calm confidence about him, just the way he went about the day and the way he played. And he saw everything well, made a lot of good decisions. So, I think he's in a good spot right now. He's getting better, like where he's at. I think Sean's getting healthier. We know we're going to probably need both those guys.
Earlier this week, when we asked Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn who would start, he couldn't give us a straight answer. And while we know the coaching staff, they've got it all figured out, the Tide, they're preparing for both because there's a good chance Johnson and White both take snaps.
It means you got to watch film on both guys. I know this week I don't have class since my teachers said they canceled it because of the Thanksgiving break coming up. But that means I get more time to watch film on both of them guys. So I got to do my job of watching them and seeing the things that they do good and do bad on. So I can come in extra and be with Coach Smart and watch some things that he wants me to look at. So this is a good week to actually look at 2 guys like the caliber guys that they have. So it's a good week for me to watch film.
And, it's actually pretty amazing what you look at now compared to 3 months ago. 3 months ago, Jeremy Johnson, he was the guy. He was going to lead Auburn to the SEC title. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate, a Heisman Trophy sensation perhaps. That didn't happen. Now we're looking at a guy on the other side of the field, Jacob Coker, who is leading Alabama as the guy we're looking at quarterback in this matchup today. Never mind the fact that Auburn's been shuffling quarterbacks. It's been all about Jake Coker. The run-heavy Bama team is a serious threat to beat you down the field now with the pass, and the receivers have gone from afterthought to superstars on this team, and there's a handful of them, and that's why Jake Coker's stats have been so great the last few games. If you look at it recently, they don't look that impressive, but he's been very efficient. He's completed 65% of his passes, so the stats may not be great, but it doesn't matter. He's winning ball games, and that's all they care about.
We made some good plays in the passing game in every game. I just think consistency and eliminate negative plays, pressure on the quarterback, cleaning up the routes a little bit. Just develop an overall confidence in the passing game, I think, would help the consistency of it.
So with that said, how does the Auburn secondary handle the task? Because to be blunt, they've really struggled the first half of the year, but quietly coming along the last 3-game stretch against A&M, Georgia, Idaho. Will Muschamp came in to save this unit. He can earn that paycheck by shutting down Alabama's receivers.
The ability of Carlton to play corner and moving Blake Countess to safety. We have not, till Blake was playing safety, have not gotten the production we need at the safety position. Blake's been a very productive player for us at the safety position. Rudy's been a much better player at nickel as opposed to safety.
Everybody wants to look at $1.6 million that this assistant coach is making. And yeah, they struggled earlier in the year, but keep one thing in mind that a lot of people may not realize. They were missing their best player on defense for 6 straight weeks.
And this is Carl Lawson. This is a player that was considered one of the best Auburn players that never played a down of football. This is the player that came in, was marred by injuries, the lead pass rusher, but he was sidelined in the second half of the Louisville game with a hip injury that was much more serious than we were led on. But it's as if the minute he came back, which was against Ole Miss, the entire energy of this defense changed.
I mean, he's an impact player, and just his presence, I think everybody can see it. It just changes the on the field, as far as that. He brings that game to practice. He's an impact player.
The injury bug tends to get the best of most teams, especially this time of year. Fortunately for Auburn, they've got all their starters back in the lineup except for Joshua Holsey, who's out for the season with the knee injury. And the big question today, coming into this football game, Can this Auburn defense stop that thing called the Derrick Henry train?
You can look at all the intangibles, all the matchups. This is the one you got to look at because Derrick Henry can run the football. It's going to be very, very difficult for Auburn to have a chance in this game. And let's call it the most important matchup. You got to think Auburn won't be able to score enough points to hang around if Henry is running wild. But if the Tiger front can slow him down and you make Jake Coker win the game, try to force him to make mistakes. So for Auburn, priority one is stopping Henry. And it's something literally no one's been able to do this year. In the last 4 games, he's had 3 200-yard performances. He has 3, and he leads the country in touchdowns with 21. You can bet playing in this game will make him run even harder, which is kind of scary.
You know, I don't really try to focus on that, but I'm saying those guys, there's a lot of great things here. I mean, it's an honor to be mentioning those guys' names, but right now, like I said, the season's still going, so I'm not really focusing on that. Just got to get prepared for Saturday and get ready for Auburn.
Derrick Henry's not looking at Heisman accolades today, but you got to think if he rushes for more than 100 yards, he is already the guy, and he's going to continue to be the guy to win the Heisman.
Heisman campaign still en route for Derrick Henry. Now we got plenty more to go here on the WIAT 42 Red Zone pregame show. Things heating up behind us as Tiger Walk gets set to take place here in just a moment. But first, Chris Wrinkle will sit down with former Samford coach and Auburn great Pat Sullivan. He'll talk about one of his greatest recruits that never played a down of football. This is a bond that goes beyond the football field. We're back in a moment.
Kickoff is still 3.5 hours away, and we're just getting started. We will be right back on the Red Zone pregame show after this break. This shot inside the Auburn locker room will be a symbol of this game today. Meticulous. Every jersey in perfect position, and Auburn's got to play a perfect game meticulously to beat Alabama. The rivalry's been so great. The record very close, 43-35-1 in 79 games in favor of Alabama. A lot of other rivalries. The margin of victory isn't nearly as close as that, and the Auburn fans are hoping they can keep it close tonight in the 80th edition, but in all reality, the home crowd is going to have to be enormous because that's the number one thing they got going for them.
There are so many distractions surrounding this game, all the hype, and it's one of those things you have to really keep these teams grounded. Let's bring in Chris Wrinkle. He's inside Jordan-Hare Stadium right now to talk about those distractions and how you keep those limited. Hey, Chris.
Well, guys, the Auburn bookstore is selling these buttons. It says 2015 back for seconds. And this is reference, of course, as to what happened 2 years ago. And that's what happens when a team loses focus, even if it's just for 1 second. That's what happens in these big games. And both Alabama and Auburn are trying to hope that that doesn't happen again. They're trying to maintain focus on this game, the entire game. And that's easier said than done. So much hoopla coming into this one. The fans care about it. The players obviously care about it as well. But the key is you just got to prepare like any other week. And Alabama is convinced that they don't want that to happen again.
This team know that, we had chances to win that game, to put that game away. And people we relaxed, and allowed a pop pass to happen, allowed a kick six to happen. So it was more the stuff that we did before that really hurt us. So we focused on going in there, playing for 60 minutes, and not letting up.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been saying, Auburn, they're always going to have athletes, and they got enough talent to match anybody. It's like us. If we play well, we can beat anybody. If we play bad, we can lose anybody. And just the same with them. They play well, they're good enough to beat anybody. And if they play bad, they can lose anybody. But we just got to make sure we're playing our game on Saturday.
And the coaches who are the best ones in this rivalry at getting their teams to focus. Bear Bryant, obviously, 19 wins and only 6 losses in his years of the Iron Bowl. And how about Shug Jordan, the one who has the most wins for the Auburn Tigers, 9 wins and 16 losses. Just 2 of the big names that have played in this rivalry game, 2 of many. And another one, if you see his statue out front or his name all over the stadium, is Pat Sullivan. You could say he's had a pretty good athletic career, a Heisman Trophy, the winningest coach at Samford. But one of his most satisfying accomplishments in his athletic career can't be measured in trophies or records. It's a personal relationship he has with one of his assistant coaches.
What you get out of athletics is the relationships that last for a lifetime. How you feeling? Huh? How you feeling? I'm feeling all right. And that's what I got out of it, is my relationship with John.
Greater than the amount of wins and losses, more powerful than the spotlight of the big game is the bond between players and coaches.
Run that option. Yes.
At Samford, that extends to a man who has never played the game of football, but his impact on the Bulldogs transcends sports.
There's been so many players that he probably doesn't realize how he's touched their lives the way he did mine.
Pat Sullivan once stepped into Huffman High School trying to recruit a wide receiver, and he left with the commitment of a student with cerebral palsy by the name of John Millhouse.
And no telling how many times I went back to Huffman High School, but John was always in the coach's locker room. You know, I invited him to come by UAB and come down and be a part of our program, and he did. And then it was just a natural transformation for him to come over here when I came over here.
The two became friends, and through Sullivan's years with UAB, John visited frequently. His attitude and unwavering support became a source of inspiration for everyone around him.
It's difficult, but it is what you make it. So I try not to dwell on the negative.
What you got going on this weekend?
Nothing much.
No, you just chilling?
Yeah.
Through practices and games, wins and losses, John is always on the sidelines to support his team. And when the coach was diagnosed with cancer, John was there to support his friend.
I had a 7 o'clock surgery, and it was about 6:30. I was in the room being prepped, and here comes old John wheeling down the hallway. When I woke up after surgery, there he was.
A Heisman Trophy winner and a man who never played the game. On the surface, an unlikely pair, but a friendship that has changed each other's lives.
There's way too many players today that think they're entitled to something. All they've got to do is look at John and see what he's been through. They're not entitled to anything. He means the world to me. Showed me about leadership, how to be a good friend.
Samford head coach Chris Hatcher told me that one of the first things he did when he accepted the Samford job was he called up John and said, "You still have a spot with this program. We want you on our sidelines." And Coach Sullivan also said that when guys like Joe Webb or other players that have known John call him, and the first thing they ask about is, "How's John doing? What's he up to these days?" So truly a special friendship with Pat Sullivan and John Millhouse.
That's saying something right there. They're asking about him before they ask about anything else.
Such an inspirational story there, John. Such an inspiration to so many. Thank you so much, Chris. Now, an inspiration to this Auburn defense, or what they hope to be an inspiration, his name is Will Muschamp.
We talk about that $1.6 million annual salary. The reason why they spent so much money on this guy was because they were desperate for a defense that was bad last year, especially in that stretch the last month of the year where Auburn was giving up 40 points a game. This year, the turnaround was slow. People weren't happy about it, but just look at the last 3 games. You'll see the vast improvements. The stats back it up, too. And if you compare those 24 defense stats with this year's defense on paper, they actually digressed in most big categories, most of which can be accounted for the first half or 2/3 of the season, really. But with Lawson back, keep that in mind. Those numbers are improving. Both Malzahn and Saban weigh in.
It's really been good to watch Will really get this defense, and it's starting to become what he wants it to be. He's still going to recruit, and it will improve, but you can see the improvement. They're playing extremely hard. I think overall we're tackling well.
Everywhere he's coached, his mark is on, that group of players in terms of how they compete and how they play, as well as, the system and the soundness that they play with. But these guys play hard. They play with toughness. They get after it, and that's sort of the trademark that Will takes wherever he goes.
Now, Muschamp spent 5 years coaching under Nick Saban, 4 years at LSU, 1 year with the Miami Dolphins. Tomorrow they go head-to-head. Today they go head-to-head, I should say. But Muschamp, he doesn't forget how he got here, where he is today in his career.
I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for the opportunities he gave me a long time ago at LSU. So The opportunities he gave me as a young coach, as a position coach, and then as a coordinator, and certainly has had a huge impact on my career. There's no question about that.
J.B. Grimes has spent the last 3 years here as Auburn's offensive line coach. Gus Malzahn hired him on when he arrived here, and as a head coach in 2013, Grimes has become more than a teacher of this football game. Later on the Red Zone, he'll teach us all a lesson on life, one that should be taken very seriously.
Still plenty more to get to here on the Red Zone pregame show. Again, we are here until 1:30 in the afternoon. Tiger Walk still about 27 minutes away. 12:30 they'll start walking in, about 2 hours before game time. 2:30 the game here on WIT 42. Time for another break. Plenty of more great stories to get to, including two of the oldest Alabama and Auburn football players alive and their memories of playing back in the 1940s.
The streets of Auburn are abuzz, and tonight Auburn fans would love nothing more than for Toomer's Corner to be covered up with the glisten of white toilet paper. That can only happen, though, if one thing takes place here this afternoon. But on the other side, an upset of Alabama, just 4 quarters away, and Alabama wins this one. They're headed to the SEC Championship in Atlanta. We'll be watching the game here inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. However, I know another pretty cool place to watch the game today.
You don't need to be here to have fun. In fact, 2 hours north of us in Birmingham is our own reporter, Brittany Bivens, at the Uptown Tailgate. What's going on up there, Brittany?
Hey guys, yeah, I am here at the Uptown Tailgate in Birmingham, where you can probably see we already have some pretty interesting guests. The stormtroopers are out here, and that's not all there is to see. Of course, we have this giant big screen television, which is a perfect place to watch the game. You can take a few pictures with your favorite Star Wars characters, and that's not all. You can also grab a bite to eat. We've got some live music, plenty of people, plenty of things to do down here. And that will all be going on coming up until game time, 2:30, right down here at Uptown Tailgate. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you come out and see us. For now, I'm live in Birmingham. Brittany Bivens, WIAT 42 News, coverage you can count on.
All right, thanks, Brittany. Looks like a great, fun place to watch the football game if you're in Birmingham, but if you're here, this is the world of the Iron Bowl, and it's very hard to explain to people that have never experienced this what this is like.
I think a lot of it has to do with there's no NFL team in Alabama. This is it. Alabama, Auburn, the Iron Bowl, this is it. This is the Super Bowl for these guys.
My family and, pulling for Alabama, it's always been a big dream of mine. So playing this game means a lot to me, but at the same time, it's kind of like the LSU, Tennessee, those kind of games. I always try to just prepare and, like it's a normal game, and then after the game, I can appreciate, being able to play in that game.
And what makes it even better, all these guys know each other. If you're good enough to play for one team, you're good enough to play for the other. So a lot of these kids got recruited by both schools, played against each other in high school, perhaps friends off the field, but not a chance come Iron Bowl time. And how many players are from in-state? A lot. 82 total from each team. So that's almost half the roster for both schools, which is a lot given how nationwide recruiting is getting these days. You're getting guys from California, Texas, up north, Ohio. So it means a lot to these guys in state, even though you've got so many guys outside the state playing for them too.
And they're able to just recycle guys left and right. You're talking about the Alabama defensive front, one of the best defenses in the country right now. These guys have been unstoppable, unbreakable, and that includes junior Dalvin Tomlinson. He has the will to win. He comes from something deep inside of him. It's a special force that drives him to always be the very best that he can be. Chris Womack will share his story coming up after the break.
Time for a break here, but when we return, how about that Alabama front seven? Auburn knows they got to find a way to stymie them. They've been the best in the country. Auburn, do they respect Bama? Well, they better, because that front seven is nasty. We'll be right back. We are inching closer to kickoff on WIAT 42, still about 2.5 hours away. Everyone's waiting patiently for the Tiger Walk. That's one downside of these 2:30 kicks. You got to wait all afternoon long to play the game, and that Auburn offensive line has to think even longer about how they're supposed to match up with that Alabama front seven. A lot of people call them the best unit in the country because they are that good.
Yeah, we've had a chance to talk to several coaches around the SEC this year, and all of them have really, the consensus is that this Alabama front seven could play for anybody in the country, and you know we're going to be seeing them play on Sundays as well. Nothing different this week. Auburn is a run-first team, and right now the Tide ranks second in the nation in run defense, giving up just under 78 yards per game. Breaking that down even further, opposing running backs are only putting down about 2.5 yards per carry, which is practically non-existent.
Well, they're the best in the country. I will say that. I mean, they're the most talented group. You know, a lot of those guys have played a lot of football, and they're experienced. They got a lot of depth. They put their twos in, and you know, they're like most people's ones or maybe even better. So, but you know, you can say that just about every year. I mean, that's what they do.
Now, these numbers have to be scary to any quarterback, regardless of whether it's Jeremy Johnson or Sean White under center. This Tide D knows how to get pressure and keep a quarterback grounded. It's just what they do.
They do get so much praise up front. You mentioned coaches praising them. Brett Bielema called them guys who they're coming out of a machine. They're pipelined into the NFL year in and year out. Yeah, they all look the same on the field, but each one of them has their own personality, and one of those guys is Dalvin Tomlinson. He's playing with a heavy heart this year. Chris Womack has a story of one promise he made to his mother.
Unstoppable, terrorizing forces on the defensive line often cut a path straight to Tuscaloosa. Dalvin Tomlinson is one of those forces, bull rushing his way to Bryant Denny from Henry County in McDonough, Georgia.
He's just an extremely hard worker, and the biggest thing as a coach when you turn on the film, he just played with a high motor. You know, a lot of intensity, and his motor was always running.
Above the din of his motor and out of all the voices Tomlinson hears when he takes the field, the loudest is the one that's missing, that of his mother, Melinda.
She was the backbone of that family, that's for sure.
They was more like best friends rather than son and mother.
The person I could go to with anything. I always have the answer to everything in my life, and she was the one who motivated me to become who I am today.
The Tomlinson name is everywhere in McDonough, even the street leading to the school.
Let's see what you got.
Melinda Tomlinson also left a mark on the football program.
Every Friday night, she didn't watch, she didn't go out to the, she cooked. And she was the cook in the concession stand. That's what she wanted to do.
She used to come to all my games, so every time I'm playing, I feel her in the stands watching over me.
Melinda never got to see her son star for the Tide.
She was a happy person. She never really showed pain, and she was a fighter. So every time you were around her, she just made you happy.
Before his senior year, she fell ill.
Overtime complications, diabetes, led to kidney and heart failure.
I knew it was bothering him though, but he tried to be strong.
She passed away on June 30th, 2011.
I was mad, kind of sad. I guess it was a lot of different emotions at the same time.
The day before, Dalvin spent countless hours with his mother and made a promise stronger than any sickness.
In that conversation was when he really settled on the University of Alabama.
And she felt good about it because before she passed, he had told her he was going to Alabama. Made her feel good.
Football will bring ups and downs, losses, wins, big tackles, missed tackles. But Dalvin has a rock that goes unseen.
There's going to be roadblocks in life, and that was a roadblock for him, but he's overcame it, and I'm sure he thinks about it every day.
I haven't seen it, but I would be bold enough to say that he has her name somewhere on something that while he's playing, and I think she's always in the back of his mind, and that promise that he made that senior year.
And her memory reminds him that he's not in Tuscaloosa just for himself.
She is the reason I'm here, so everything I do on and off the field is for her, and I've just lived life so I could make her happy, pretty much. I live my life, so do things that would, make her proud.
Chris Womack, WIAT 42 Sports, coverage you can count on.
No doubt that Dalvin is making his mother proud and holding true to that promise that he gave her when he came to the University of Alabama.
He loves to stop the run, and he's got to do it again today. And Auburn's offense, when they run the football, it's a little different right now than it used to be earlier in the year, as Chris Wrinkle joins us live once again, because one guy, Chris, has emerged for Auburn in that backfield.
Well, the quarterback carousel has really been spinning all year, and that's what's getting all the attention. But the running back carousel is really what should be getting the attention, because it's been pretty good for Auburn. Beginning of the season, who would have seen a guy like Javon Robinson coming? Not many, but over the last 4 games, he has been absolutely dominant. He's taken the workload away from Peyton Barber, and that's not because Barber hasn't been good. It's because Robinson has been that good. 400 yards rushing in his last 4 games, only 2 touchdowns, but with him at the tailback position, the Auburn offense just seems to go, and the Bama rush defense has noticed, and they know that no matter who is back there in the backfield for Auburn, they got to be ready, because the Tigers are going to run the football.
They got some good backs that can hurt you. Got the big guy, Robinson. You know, he can do it all, make the cuts, he can run over you. You got Peyton Barber, he's the same way. And you got Johnson, he's good, he's quick. And then you got Rock Thomas. There's actually 4 of them that can all be playing against us and, you know, trying to, you know, wear us down. So we got to prepare for it.
You want to beat Alabama, you got to run the football. Easier said than done this year, but Auburn wants a chance in this one. They're going to have to tote the rock. Teams that have beaten Alabama have something in common. They rush for over 100 yards, and they don't turn the ball over. So hold on to the football and have an effective running game, and you could be in business against Alabama. So I guess the motto for Gus Malzahn to steal it away from Bama fans, run the ball, Gus. We'll see if they're able to accomplish that here today.
Yeah, it's strength versus strength. Auburn, 255 rushing. Alabama giving up 77 yards. Such a drastic difference. One of them is going to win it, though.
And speaking on strength, the weather a strength today. This weather couldn't be more beautiful. I had my wardrobe lined up, pea coats and all, but guess what? I didn't have to worry about that. Touchdown Teddy, a.k.a. Ted McInerney, will join us after the break with today's weather forecast. You're watching the WIAT 42 Red Zone pregame show on CBS. The last week of November, and the weather is absolutely beautiful here in the state of Alabama. Warm and sunny. Now that is amazing, considering the past few years I remember being quite chilly on this day of rivalry. I sure do love it when Mother Nature is in a good mood.
The heater was out last night. We took it away today. Are we going to have to bring it back, though, tonight? Ted McInerney in our Birmingham studios to tell us. Hopefully no.
No, not at all. It's been a great day out there. Previous couple of Iron Bowls have been cold, like Lauren said, but a different story. But we lucked out, because if you look around the SEC, that cold front's plowing through the East Coast, and you can start to see it moving through Texas, where it's already 44, but 80 in Baton Rouge. We're dealing with 70s today. You can't beat that. And another thing we're lucking out with, the rain holding off with that cold front as well. Here's the satellite and radar, the clouds, and most of the rain off to the north and west, and I expect that to stay there as it moves off to the north and east and gradually slides to the south and east. And for right now, down in Auburn, you can see just some high clouds building across the area. A nice warm Saturday afternoon on Storm Track Futurecast. All you see throughout the game today is cloud cover with a little bit of clearing, so we'll get that sunshine throughout the day, so it's looking pretty good as we get into the day and through the game as well. Here's a look at that Iron Bowl forecast. As we kick off at 2:30, we're calling it warm, 73 degrees. Again, there'll be some clouds out there, no real wind to deal with, 70 by halftime, and by the fourth quarter, 63 degrees, mild. And the biggest headline is we stay dry, and that we lucked out with that cold front slowing down and giving us one day to have some great football here in the state of Alabama. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Ted. As somebody that covered football in the ACC and the Big East back when it was the Big East, I must say this southern weather, I feel spoiled.
Like I said, you love it. Looking great across the entire Southeastern Conference. One other game in the SEC that's relevant to us if Alabama does lose to Auburn, that's Ole Miss at Mississippi State. That's a rivalry game. Other rivalry games across the country, quite a few of them playing in-state rivals but out of conference. Florida State, Clemson, South Carolina. Time now for a trip around the SEC.
Here's what's happening around the SEC, brought to you by McDonald's.
There's only one team that can steal the SEC West from Alabama, and that's Ole Miss. The Rebels are on the road in the Egg Bowl at Mississippi State, and apparently Coach Hugh Freeze gave a war eagle at his press conference this week. They need Auburn to beat Alabama.
It obviously would give us a chance to win the West. So as that comment they're saying was a conversation between me and another guy as I was leaving the press conference. But of course, I'm pulling for them.
I think there's always that fine balance that you find to play, energetic and passionate, but also playing with composure, and in a rivalry game, and then also, the importance of it without pressing too much.
Could this be Les Miles' last game in Baton Rouge? Reports say the school's going to buy out his contract at the end of the year, but right now he's trying to deflect all questions.
I think there's a group of men here that in my staff that are responsible for putting together a real good game plan. I think that's exactly what they're doing.
It's an in-state rivalry as Vanderbilt goes to Tennessee. The Commodores are eliminated from postseason play, so bragging rights are the only thing on the line for them.
Rivalry week, and you can really throw records out the window. It has nothing to do with records. It has more to do with pride, relevancy, just trying to make sure that you represent.
We have to play through 4 downs of football on special teams. We can't allow them to steal a possession. And obviously, first and foremost, in games like this, we have to take care of the football.
Another in-state rivalry pits Florida hosting Florida State. At stake for the Gators, an outside chance of making the college football playoff. They've got the SEC title game next weekend, too. And the South Carolina Gamecocks won't be bowling, but they would love nothing more than to beat their biggest rival, Clemson, to keep them out of the playoff. A win at home would do exactly that.
All right, thanks, Chris. And another big rivalry game going on here in the country today. That is Virginia Tech on the road against UVA, with high hopes that Frank Beamer can become bowl eligible in his final season as the head coach of the Hokies, his 29th season. Now, plenty more to go here on the Red Zone Show. Vern Lundquist, Gary Danielson in the booth for us today. They've covered quite a few Iron Bowl games. Chris Brees will talk with our game day crew right after the break.
We can talk X's and O's all we want, but we thought we'd bring in the real professionals, Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, and you gave that face.
Yeah. You're calling me a real professional. And I'm not sure. Well, I'm still in doubt.
There's so many advantages that Alabama has per se. What does Auburn have going for them, Gary?
I think that they've beat Alabama before, and that they've played in national championships and they've played in big games. I think number two, these guys were recruited at a pretty high level, and they came here to beat Alabama. So I think that they can look at this game and say this can wash away a whole season of misery in one football game. So that's pretty darn motivating.
You think 14 points is a big...
Yeah, I do, because the game is here. And I would add to what Gary just expressed that I think the home crowd can be a determining factor in this rivalry. And it strikes me, we talked to Gus Malzahn, whose background is in Arkansas, right? And I asked him if he was aware of the intensity of this rivalry before he got down here as the offensive coordinator. He said, no, I was not aware, but once you go through it, it changes you. And it affects how you view your job and your standing in this state. So I wouldn't dismiss Auburn's chances out of hand.
I think the big question on everyone's mind is, can Auburn score enough points against Alabama? How do they score those points?
Well, I think they would like a low-scoring game, and that's odd for Auburn because in this game before, the faster it went and the more points scored, they felt that it was their advantage. But I think this year they would like a low-scoring game. They would like it to be a nail-biter. They would like it to be decided on field goals and missed assignments and tackles. They want it to be a dirty, ugly football game where the pressure kind of goes to Alabama's sideline and go, oh my gosh, we're going to let this happen again.
I'm smiling when I think about Will Muschamp, who's one of our favorite interview subjects. And he said he felt like grabbing some of his guys and saying, there's nothing wrong with a 10-7 game. And I think that is what they want.
You think it can be 10-7?
Probably not. Not in modern college football. It's probably not going to be that way. But we've seen stranger things. I mean, it would be nice. Gus Malzahn made his reputation of being able to scheme offense and produce big plays. Now, if Gus could come up with a couple plays where he just kind of schemes a guy wide open and everybody goes, where did that come from? That could help his football team and they could gain confidence. Because, it's hard for me to picture that Auburn is going to come into this game and all of a sudden find a passing game. And, where did this happen all year? And I also find it hard to believe that they're already going to be able to run the ball right down Alabama's throat. I doubt if two ends of the spectrum that's going to happen. But somewhere in the middle, if you produce some doubt, that could happen.
Well, they got 2.5 hours to get rid of that doubt before game time. They're going to go up to the booth. We're going to take a break here on the Red Zone pregame show.
Nice. 56-yarder. Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back.
Yes, I was at that football game, standing there in shock like the rest of the entire world as that play unfolded. And yes, we've seen it on replay over and over again. And as one can imagine, that can be painful for the Alabama players who were on the receiving end of that. But hey, it's in the past.
Personally, I don't think about it. It's 2 years ago. We beat them last year at our home. And like I said, we're going to go down there and try to execute and do what we got to do to get out of there with the win. I don't think anybody's really thinking about the kick six. Obviously, it happened. But, that was a long time ago.
And we are approaching 2 hours from kickoff, which can only mean one thing. As you see behind us, a lot more people than were there just a few minutes ago.
Could you imagine if these people saw something like that 2 years ago, even remotely similar, happen to what happened with the kick six? It would be insane. Thousands of people out here waiting for the Tiger Walk. They're passionate. They believe their Tigers can pull something off, pull an upset off, and really, if you look at last year's game, this one today, it's not a whole lot different. Why? Because, Auburn didn't have a whole lot to play for. Alabama did. They were in the national title contention. And the Tide got down by 2 scores late in the third quarter, 36-27. Auburn couldn't be stopped, but then all of a sudden, Bama scored 4 touchdowns. And 15 minutes late in the game that was once a worry turned into what looked like on the scoreboard an easy Tide win. 55-44, but it was not easy, and they don't expect this one to be easy either.
There's no question you can't give up the explosive plays that we gave up a year ago. We need to continue to try and get some turnovers and things like that we were able to do in the ball game. And actually, till we wore out late in the game, played the runs decently well. But you can't give up explosive plays and expect to win.
And it wasn't long after that the Will Muschamp era began here on the Plains. Gus Malzahn hiring him after letting Ellis Johnson go, wanting to shift things up here at Auburn, trying to resurrect this defense.
If you can hear some loud roars today, you got to wonder if you're going to hear them up in Birmingham, 2 hours north of us as we go back up to Brittany Bivens live at our tailgate up in Uptown. And it is time for Ultimate Tailgate, Brittany.
Uptown, funk you up.
Hey guys, that's right. I am here at Uptown at the tailgate. And if you come on out here, you can meet some celebrities, like a few stormtroopers. Are you having a good time? Yeah, if the stormtrooper says it, it has to be true. And not only that, you can have a great time watching the game on this big screen and plenty of your friends. We also have some food out here. I've got to tell you, it smells pretty darn good. It is some ultimate tailgating food. You really do not want to miss it. And we have live entertainment. A band is playing. So if you're looking for something a little bit different today, you want to come out and have some fun outdoors in this beautiful weather like we just heard about earlier, you definitely want to come outside here, right? I mean, you heard it from a stormtrooper. I don't know what else you need. You got to come down here to Uptown Tailgate. We'll be out here all afternoon, and the game, of course, kicking off at 2:30, so you can come and hang out with us. You can also meet some of your favorite WIAT 42 news anchors. They are out here as well, and all of that action is here at Uptown in Birmingham. I'm live in Birmingham, Brittany Bivens, WIAT 42 News, coverage you can count on.
Tell you what, that big screen out there sitting on top of that rooftop, that is some pretty awesome stuff. Would be a great place to watch a football game. I catch myself glancing over there when I'm driving on the interstate, which is probably not a good thing.
2 hands.
Hey,
guess what? We're technically halfway done with this show, but we are not even close to scratching the surface of the great stories we have for you coming up in the last hour of our show. Tiger Walk is seconds away, literally seconds. It is 12:30. 2 hours until kickoff. We're dwindling down slowly but surely. The Red Zone pregame show continues after this break.
The first Alabama-Auburn football game was played on this site, formerly known as the Baseball Park, on February 22nd, 1893. That contest, reported as the greatest football game ever played in Birmingham, was the beginning of one of the nation's most renowned college football rivalries. It's a game that eventually moved across the city.
Chatwood's blocked and Sabre turned it on. I can watch that all night.
Before moving across the state.
It's Darrell Williams. Touchdown.
A game where clutch comebacks
Touchdown up Church.
have kept alive championship dreams.
The receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkin. Touchdown Auburn! Touchdown Auburn! Lutz and Kirkin.
And some of the game's best coaches have built their reputation. A game where a simple phrase,
It is blocked! It is blocked! It's called a run! It's called a run! He's going to score! David Wagner!
sparks the memory of a single play.
It gives up! Long enough! And it's good! He made it!
Bringing joy or pain. A game where legacies are cemented.
Jackson! Touchdown!
Records are broken. And immortality is only a second away.
45, there goes Davis! Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back! Auburn's going to win the football game!
This is the Iron Bowl.
This is the WIAT Red Zone, brought to you by Pepsi.
Well, you're looking live at the Tiger Walk here down on the plains, the campus of Auburn University, Jordan-Hare Stadium, as the Tigers are moments away from the Tiger Walk. Thousands of fans gathering in hopes of a huge upset. Alabama, a 14.5-point favorite over Auburn. But these games, always in the Iron Bowl, are so much closer than this.
This is one of those games that can always turn into a classic and really quick. Alabama obviously coming into this one hoping to put this thing to bed and quick if they can get through 4 quarters of this football game. But don't think for a second that Auburn is going to lay down on this one. And these Auburn fans are going to make sure that they make it very, very difficult to communicate. It is going to be a hard-fought ball game by both teams.
And when you talk about Auburn's chances, the number one thing they got going for them, again, is these fans. These thousands of fans that can literally rally them on to victory, will them on to victory in a game where they have nothing to lose. Let's be honest. Alabama has everything to lose. We talked about this at the top of the first hour of the show. Auburn has 0 to lose. Bama, nothing to win right now because they can't clinch the SEC title at this point. They can only make the title game, and next week is their week to shine and make the college football playoff. So this Iron Bowl looms. And when you look at the series history between these two teams, why is this so great? Well, not only is every meeting close, but the series has been close in general. The longest win streaks, this is a long time ago. Alabama won 9 in a row. Auburn won 6 in a row back in the day.
And the largest victory came in 1948 when the Tide rolled up the Tigers 55-0. 7 school records set back in 2014, and you can hear the sirens right now, which can only mean one thing.
The Tiger Walk is on. Are we going to take the Tiger Walk as it comes on here? Are we going to continue with this show? We're on the Tiger Walk up as the Auburn Tigers are walking into Jordan-Hare Stadium here on the plains at Auburn. 2:30 kickoff here on WIAT 42. Again, Alabama's a huge favorite, but you see this crowd of rabid Tiger fans. They've had a season that they would love to forget. Gary Danielson told me yesterday when we talked to him there that all those woes could just be crushed, put away with one win. That's how much this game means.
And I think that is the biggest factor, like you said. When you come into a football game like this season, obviously coming into it, the expectations were so great for Auburn. Expected to win the SEC, obviously just becoming bowl eligible last week against Idaho. Certainly the #1 goal coming into this game was that they get to play into the postseason, which will be very important in getting the guys ready for next season. But when you put those bragging rights on the line, that is something that is huge for them. And hey, I'm told Aubie's out there flying high, doing his thing. We love Aubie coming through. The fans are excited to see him as the team. He's going to escort the team in along with the band as they get ready for kickoff here at 2:30 at Jordan-Hare Stadium. This is a crowd. This is a big crowd.
This is what's so great about SEC football that you won't find anywhere else. You like to talk about fair-weathered fans in any sport, whether it's the NFL, you're talking about NBA, baseball. There is no such thing as fair-weathered fans in the state of Alabama. Auburn, they had that miserable season in 2012. Nobody cared. They came back, rooted for them every single game. They went to the national title game the year after that. A little bit of a down year last year. You talk about the disappointment this year. Look at these fans. I mean, they're everywhere. You would not think this was a 6-5 team who technically didn't have a lot to play for, but they do, because it's the Iron Bowl. Like we said, it's their Super Bowl and willing their team to victory, and we're seeing it right here with the Tiger Walk.
And that's one thing that Gus Malzahn and the players always talk about. And week in and week out, they talk about how big the fans are, how critical they are to their success. And regardless of the season, regardless of the record and how well they're playing or not playing, they are critical in helping Auburn continue their season, putting last week behind them, moving forward, looking ahead. This is what they play for. This atmosphere, this crowd, this excitement, it's all part of the adrenaline rush. But as Chris Frost said, none of this stuff matters when you get in between the hash marks and you run out of that tunnel.
And Gus Malzahn actually just making his appearance. You can talk about a coach who's been criticized a lot this year. I mean, you want to go back to what Gene Chizik did. Had down years, won a national title, then he got fired really quickly. Gus Malzahn, he's not in too different of a situation, but he's getting the benefit of the doubt because he was a big cog in that factor of that offense turning around in 2010. And he has this Auburn team ready to win, and they're going to give him time, obviously. So you don't think Gus Malzahn is on the hot seat, obviously.
Well, the coaching carousel is always spinning round and round and round, and as you can see at other colleges, everybody's always talking about who's on the hot seat, who's next, but that's certainly not up for debate right now. And what I really love about rivalry games like this, even though you have Alabama and Auburn on opposite ends of the state, this is a rivalry matchup that everybody can share in together, those special memories and that special bond.
So much history with this rivalry, and we actually talked to the two oldest living Alabama and Auburn football players, their memories of playing college football and their memory of the Iron Bowl, which you may be surprised is very different than you think.
A brilliant pass on a sensational catch, and he's over for another Crimson Tide touchdown.
Number 5 in there. Yeah, there we go.
There you are.
Get that tackle, boy.
You got it.
Got him.
75 years ago, but it might as well be live today.
Go, big boy, come on.
At 96 years young, Don Sauls, the oldest living Alabama football player.
Come on, boy. Come on. That's a good run. Good run. All right.
His counterpart,
I was always a running back.
David Lyon.
A back on defense.
The oldest living Auburn player, 93 years young.
I was born and raised about 8 miles up the road here.
Both men were born and raised in Alabama. Both lettered in 1942. Both played running back and defense. Both left the team to serve in World War II. And guess what? They never got to play against each other.
I didn't care about it at all.
No.
Doesn't mean anything?
No.
You heard that correctly. This rivalry didn't exist for these guys. The Iron Bowl went on hiatus from 1908 to 1947.
Tennessee, I guess, was probably one of our major big games. We had to beat Tennessee.
But that began to change when a guy named Clell Hobson got to Tuscaloosa in 1950.
Chris, when you turn 85, buddy, this month, it's hard to remember a lot of things.
Hobson passes to Luna. He takes it goal line for a touchdown.
We played Auburn in 50, beat them real bad. That was my sophomore year.
But even then, the Iron Bowl wasn't the game.
Back then, I'd have to say Georgia Tech and Tennessee and LSU was probably a bigger rivalry at that time than Auburn was.
Oh, how times have changed. And the big difference these guys see in the game today?
I was pretty good-sized fullback at 169 pounds.
I weigh 178 pounds. That's as much as I ever weighed.
Today, a fullback is 220, you know.
But whether you're 23 or 93, 169 or 269, the memories will always remain the same.
I love to play defense, and we've had to play 60 minutes under Frank Thomas.
The coach, the head coach, Jack Ma, I've got a picture of him over there, and it's spelled Jack, M-E-A-G-H-E-R. How would you pronounce it?
So just to give you some context on 1942, average gas, 19 cents. Average car cost $1,100. The #1 song in the country fitting, White Christmas, Bing Crosby. And Nick Saban in 1942 wasn't even a thought. He was born 9 years later, Halloween 1951. You got to think guys like Don Salz would have loved to play for Nick Saban, right?
Absolutely, and talk about loving the prices of gas and paying $1,100 for a car. What? That's pretty awesome. Now, we've got plenty more to go here on the Red Zone. We're going to have a little fun when we return. We take you inside Jordan-Hare Stadium, but what we're going to do, we're going to bring in our armchair quarterback. He's going to try to get inside the minds of these coaches, Gus Malzahn, Nick Saban, the players. Tell us what he believes will be the biggest keys to victory when things kick off here in less than 2 hours. You're watching WIAT 42 only on CBS.
WD, baby, WD.
As bad as we played, still could have done it. It takes it out of you. I don't know.
You ready? Six turnovers. That's all we need. 6 turnovers.
I mean, our quarterbacks are great and everything, but.
The Dreamland Barbecue Armchair Quarterback, brought to you by Coke Zero.
There's one reason why sports are so fun. It's fans like that and fans like this. Brandon Varner is the winner of our Iron Bowl tickets for the Dreamland Barbecue and Coke Zero, sponsors of the Armchair Quarterback of the Week, but now the Armchair Quarterback of the Year. You're an Alabama fan.
Yes, sir.
By the shorts, I can tell. That's what gave it away.
What's your opinion of this game today?
Well, you know, it's like I was telling someone earlier. You don't want to take games for granted because we saw what Saban does to people that do that, and I don't want to be on his list, you know.
And speaking of Saban, the team coming in right now as they get ready for this Iron Bowl. When you look at the records of these teams, is there any hesitation at all that this Auburn team could come in here, smack Alabama in the mouth?
Well, the funny thing about that is literally anything can happen at any point in time in college football. That's why I don't trust it. But there's nothing for me to say. I mean, Auburn, they're a good team. They've had some rough patches this year, but we'll see what happens.
Nick Saban's walking in right now. Have you listened to his epic rants the last couple months? What do you think of those?
He's a character. That guy eats, sleeps, breathes football, you know? He doesn't like to miss an opportunity to show people how passionate he is about the game.
But how much do you love having a coach like that at the helm, somebody that you can trust in as a fan to know that he's going to get his players motivated, fired up, regardless of circumstances and regardless of games like this?
No one's going to be harder on themselves than Nick Saban, and that's good to have in a coach. You never want to be the person that's like, I could motivate a team better than that, because there's no one on this planet that can do it better than Nick Saban.
You're probably right.
You're a passionate fan. I want to go back to 2007. Think back to then when Nick Saban got hired and they were losing to teams they shouldn't have lost to year one. Be honest with us. What were you thinking in 2007?
You always got to give a coach a couple of years, you know. You always got to give a coach a couple of years. I don't know. I always was wary of Saban because, you know, the whole LSU to Miami situation. But all of these years later, it's hard not to trust the process.
And as you can see, we have several guys walking in right now. Derrick Henry, a force to reckon with. What are your thoughts on Derrick Henry and how he's performed this season and his chances at being the next Heisman Trophy winner?
Honestly, the way Fournette was running earlier this season, I thought that he was going to take it hands down. But Derrick Henry, man, it's like Eddie Lacy 2.0. You know, he runs hard, he runs fast, and I don't want to be in front of him.
2.0.
Brandon Varner won the tickets to the Iron Bowl, by the way. Have you been to an Iron Bowl yet?
Ask me that question again in a couple of hours.
First one.
Yes.
What is going through your mind right now?
Well, you know, I'm just hoping for an Alabama victory, and we'll see how that pans out.
All right, Brandon Varner, hoping for that Iron Bowl victory with these tickets. Maybe it'll be the good luck charm that they're looking for. Thank you again to our sponsors for our Armchair Quarterback Dreamland, Coke Zero as well. Of course, you get a big prize pack from both of them and enjoying that. So certainly an exciting day, and we wish you the best of luck in your first Iron Bowl experience.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Time for a break. We'll be right back. We've got all this talk about Auburn running the football to win. Well, we should probably update you on some injuries on the offensive line. Tackle Sean Coleman and center Austin Golson both sat out last week. They're kind of questionable right now. Not 100% sure if they're both going to play, so Devontae Danzy may have to start at center for Auburn. So the offensive line looking a little thin, perhaps.
Yeah, when you look at the offensive line, it is typically something that is underrated and overlooked. But at Auburn, there is certainly not being overlooked. Their unit showing a lot of strength this season, and it all starts from the sidelines with the guy calling the shots.
Football is a sport that requires a special toughness.
When it's time to go to work, you go to work and you do your job.
In the trenches, it's a toughness you don't find anywhere else.
To me, there's only one response. You get up off the mat and you go do what you're supposed to do.
For Auburn's offensive line coach, J.B. Grimes, it means staring his team in the face, pushing them, motivating them regardless of life's circumstances.
I kind of had an idea over the course of the summer. You know, I had this spot that it just wouldn't go away, and I thought, wow, you know, I don't think this is good. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't good, but it's okay. I'm cancer-free now, and, you know, my wounds are healing. I've still got some trauma up here in my neck, but you can hardly see it. I mean, look.
J.B. Grimes has spent more than 3 decades teaching toughness, and now he's had to become a student of his own advice.
I admit that, you know, it's scary. I mean, anytime someone uses the word cancer, it's scary. You know, you think the worst. You know, you think the worst, but I also knew you can't lay down and feel sorry for yourself. You just got to go on and move on, you know, and that's what I decided I was going to do.
Just 6 days after having the lymph nodes and cancerous spot removed from his tongue, Grimes was determined to return to the practice field, and just in time for the start of fall camp.
I just felt like it was very, very important for the coaches, and then I thought it was important for our players, you know, that they knew, you know, going into this season, the whole thing was count on me. And I just didn't want the kids to think that I was going to lay up in the bed and heal. I mean, it was time for me to go to work.
Being consistent. It's a standard Grimes holds for his players and for himself.
It's been a tough year. I mean, we've had some ups and downs in our season, and emotionally it's been a tough year. But, you know, the whole mantra is to make sure that, hey, guys, you know, be consistent. Day in and day out, be the same person. Show up and give a good day's work. Football comes and goes. Football is not life and death. Sometimes it feels like it is. It's tough, you know, when you lose a game. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we'll get over that loss. It's about how you approach your life and how you answer challenges. That's what this thing's all about.
And I'll tell you what, Chris, when I walked out of that room after talking to JB, I literally felt so inspired and ready to just conquer the world. He is a guy that lives by his word every single day.
You talk about wanting to run through a wall for your coach. That's an exact example of that right there with JB Grimes. You know, so much talk about this Iron Bowl being late in November. Well, Alabama in November, they've been so good, and you wonder why they have so many titles in the country. Their record under Nick Saban in November, 26-9 in 9 seasons. He's gone 4-0 3 times. If they win today, that'll be 4 times they've gone 4-0 in November.
I think all the best teams really play their best ball in November. You look at the start of the season, everybody's kind of gunning for those top spots, and coming in November, whether you've done it throughout the year or not, it's going to limit it down to maybe 10 or 12 teams who still have a chance. We've kind of wrote in that destiny that we have for ourselves, and we see how good we can be.
See, typically, Alabama usually, November is not their best month. September is. It's the exact opposite this year. They had that loss to Ole Miss in the big game in September, but they've been perfect ever since. They've been unstoppable in November, and the game tonight, the Iron Bowl, got to be unstoppable again if they want to make it to the SEC title.
Yep, and we'll see if Nick Saban can extend that streak to 27 wins in the month of October. We got plenty more here on the Red Zone coming up. Stay with us all the way up until 1:30. We're back in a moment.
I mean, I'm not from here, so I can't really say. I don't know the whole history in this game, but I guess it has to deal with, there's only, there's the 2 biggest schools in Alabama, and there's, kind of the state's divided.
It's a great feeling, like hooking up to a shark, and going from there.
Hooking up with a shark.
What
is that? I don't understand. I really don't understand. Oh, I don't really fish all that much.
It is kind of funny to hear guys from out of state talk about this Alabama-Auburn rivalry. We talk so much about in-state guys, but out-of-state guys are just as important in the game, too. And for Gus Malzahn offense, you've got to recruit guys from across the country because he wants to be so diverse and multiple with the schemes. So you got to do guys outside the state of Alabama. But when you look at the diversity, it hasn't been there this year.
Yeah, and this is one of those football teams, as you said, you want to bring in that diversity. These guys are starting to understand what the Iron Bowl is all about, and a big key in this football game is going to be balance. While they're a run-first team, those 2- and 3-yard plays, they're not going to get the job done here. They've got to put together some of those explosive plays, generate some momentum, try to beat Alabama in the red zone, but that's all tall order considering Alabama's defense can rotate guys in and out and keep them fresh.
I think sometimes people look at the standpoint of, man, you can't run it on them, so don't even try. And you can't do that. You can't be one-dimensional and be successful often. You still got to try to have some semblance of balance, even if it's not that you're gashing people up and down the field. And the last couple years when we've had some success, it's been because we were able to make some plays both running and throwing the football.
And Gus Malzahn always has some tricks up his sleeves or vest. This week he's going to be getting asked specifics on the potential play calling. It's been a big question. Well, he had a field day with this one.
Is that still fight song?
Could be. You guys are trying to give all of my secrets away, What else we want to tell them? Reverses? Any reverses? Y'all want some reverses? Okay, we'll run some reverses, all right? You want some trick plays? We'll run some trick plays. You want to know what they're called? Just ask me.
See, you ask nicely, and sometimes you shall receive. Gus Malzahn, probably the most animated I have seen him maybe in his 3 years here.
That would be a calm Nick Saban. That'd be a good day for Nick Saban. Malzahn is really going to plan on this crowd making some serious noise for his team today as we get back to Chris Wrinkle, who's live on the field. The Tide, though, Chris, they've been dealing with these road issues all year long, so it's really no big deal for them, right?
It is getting loud inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. The students have been filing in for about an hour, and when Cam Newton was walking around here pregame, it was getting really loud with just that section filled in. You can only imagine what it's going to be for a player in crimson and white when they walk onto the field for the first time, and this place is packed. It's going to be loud, to say the least, and Alabama's been preparing for that. They've been pumping in crowd music during practice just to get, used to that kind of environment. And the Iron Bowl, it's a little different from most games, so they're expecting a little bit of a different crowd.
This is a difficult place to play, no question. People are usually fired up when you get there, and they stay that way, throughout the game. Not a lot different from other places that we've played. It's going to be all about, how we execute and how we play.
Now, this isn't exactly the season Auburn wanted coming into the year. We thought this game would be a lot bigger than it is, but don't tell the students who have been here for over an hour that. We'll have more from Jordan-Hare Stadium coming up after the break. You're watching the Red Zone on WIAT 42 News. Iron Bowl coming up. It's no secret this is not the season that Auburn wanted. Beginning of the year, you look at the Iron Bowl, a lot of people said this would be a playoff eliminator or basically an SEC West championship game, and it is that for Alabama, not so much for Auburn. Now, they don't have a whole lot to lose. They are bowl eligible, so at least you got another bowl game for the Tigers, but this has been a rough year for Auburn, but that has not deterred them. They know what they want to do, finish out strong, and specifically beat those bitter rivals from Tuscaloosa.
It's football. You're not going to win them all. And just understanding that every game, anything can happen in any game. We understand how the season went. We understand how certain games went. And, we play our hardest and do what we got to do.
Sometimes you got to blow it up before you can build it up. And boy, the lowest of the low point where you could say Auburn just blew it up was that LSU game, especially defensively. The Tigers really struggled. Leonard Fournette, visions of him running through their dreams, more like nightmares, probably still going on for a lot of Tiger defenders. But since then, they have gotten better and they've started to build it up. As we take a look at the stats before and after the LSU game, Auburn starting to play some winning defensive football, and that's Will Muschamp's scheme and a lot of experience coming to the young players on the defensive side of the ball. Now, they got another tough test. You think Leonard Fournette was tough? Derrick Henry's a different animal. Literally, he's a little bit bigger and faster than Fournette, so they're going to have their hands full defensively today, and we'll really see how far they have progressed from that loss in Baton Rouge, guys.
He does not skip leg day, as Chris likes to say.
The man bun. No more man bun. But hey, another unit that's oftentimes overlooked is special teams. And a guy that has been a catalyst in the special teams unit for Alabama, his name is Cyrus Jones. If you take a look at these numbers here, he's pretty much racking up those numbers, helping Alabama to be the best that there is. He had 2 punt returns for a touchdown last week against Charleston Southern, which helped to contribute here. First in the nation in return yards and first returns for touchdowns. Jones, your special teams SEC Player of the Week after that historic performance in his final game at Bryant-Denny Stadium, but he's hoping to play for a whole lot more this week.
And different guys, too. Minkah Fitzpatrick earlier in the year, Eddie Jackson, Marlon Humphrey, they all got in on the action, but it's been all about Cyrus Jones the last couple of weeks, especially last week. He was just a beast.
I mean, anytime we get a chance to, make a play on special teams, and even if we don't score a touchdown, just putting the offense in a better position once they get on the field. I mean, it goes unsaid how valuable it is, I mean, I think people overlook special teams a lot, but we definitely know how important it is to the game.
And do not forget about Auburn, their own special teams secret. It comes in the form of the kicker, Daniel Carlson, in the midst of a school record-breaking season. And he's a finalist for the Lou Groza Award for the nation's best kicker. He's got a season long of 56 yards way back on the first week of the season. If it gets down to intangibles, let's just keep this in mind. Daniel Carlson's the guy for Auburn. Who does Alabama have? People love to hate him, and then they love to love him. Adam Griffith.
I was going to say, is this a rhetorical question? Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing like a game that goes down to the kicking game. Once again, we've been talking about unsung heroes, the kickers. They have the weight of the world on their shoulders, some good, some bad. They get the oohs, the ahs, and the boos. Now, another guy that we have that we know has a weight of the world on his shoulders, that's the Auburn Mike Man. Let's put it this way. Auburn wasn't part of his gene pool. We'll take you to a house divided, and this one is really interesting.
He had some guts, no doubt about it. Plus, Jake Coker doesn't get a lot of love, but he's fine with that. How he's quietly becoming a team leader and a playmaker. Time for a break. We're right back.
The sweet sound of game day just over an hour from kickoff. The Auburn marching band making their way to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Plenty of fans outside here getting fired up for this rivalry game, one of the biggest in college football. And when a classic is about to be dialed up. We could have one of those today. You never know. Some late game heroics. Could it be Jake Coker, Jeremy Johnson, Sean White, a running back, Derrick Henry? You never know.
Well, Coker is going to have to deal with this crowd noise and this band noise. That may be the biggest issue. And you're talking about a guy, amazing how far he's come at quarterback. Keep this in mind, too. Against Ole Miss, after that game, he still had not had this quarterback job locked up. It didn't happen until we got into October, and he just completely transformed in that month. He went from game manager to playmaker in what seemed like overnight. Bama had a great October, a perfect 4-0, and Coker was legit in every one of those games.
I think we kind of gotten a feel for just the timing and how to run certain routes versus certain looks, and everybody's just gotten more comfortable with where we're going to be. So, you know, I gotten a feel for how they're going to run a route versus certain looks, and I just being able to put the ball where it needs to be has become a lot easier.
And again, he's just gotten completely different, very accurate, 65% of his passes. The touchdown to interception ratio is getting better given how bad it was to start the year in September. And he's starting to draw praise from other coaches. So you know when a quarterback is getting praise from other coaches against other teams, saying he's a threat to win a game, he's a legit guy. But can he limit the mistakes? Because if Alabama can't run the ball, Coker may have to win it on the air.
And being here in Jordan-Hare Stadium, we know that it's hard to play in the SEC as it is. This is a loud stadium, and as you can hear around here, communication is going to be a big key for this football team, especially for Jake Coker commanding that offense. We go inside the stadium, Chris Wrinkle there. He knows a little bit about crowd noise and commanding an offense and what this means in communication. Hey, Chris.
The fans really starting to pile into Jordan-Hare right now, and when this place is packed, it's going to be loud and you're going to hear a lot of different voices, but one is going to go above all the others. You're going to notice him more because he has a microphone and he's on a platform, but that's just the beginning of what makes up the Auburn Mic Man.
He's one of the most recognizable sounds at an Auburn football game.
I'm up on a box alone in front of all these people, getting to hear 87,000 people just roaring in a War Eagle or in a Bata Getta or Great to Be. That is a very satisfying feeling.
But Daniel Phillips was unsure about the position he currently holds when he first saw the Mic Man when he was 16.
I was like, what is happening? But I still remember it. Thinking back on it, I was like, what in the world is that guy doing? Like, he looks ridiculous.
The position seemed unfamiliar to him, mostly because he grew up spending most of his fall Saturdays across the state.
I grew up an Alabama fan all my life since since whenever I can remember. I was decked out in crimson and, going to football games. My granddad, he played football for Bear Bryant back in the late 50s. I think it was 58, 59, and 60. He raised his 3 sons to be rabid Alabama fans, and they raised all their kids to be rabid Alabama fans. That's my entire mom's side of the family. They're all decked out in crimson.
Phillips says he's the first member of his family to be an Auburn freshman.
Go, Tigers!
He's also the only Auburn fan among them.
But I'm working on converting them. It's going to be a slow, trying process, but I'm subtly throwing some Auburn into their life here and there. My mom and dad have been supportive, but you can tell that they're still a little, got some crimson in them. If they were here, they'd tell you they're more of a Daniel Phillips fan than an Alabama fan, which has been really been supportive for me, which has been cool. I mean, they got season tickets to Auburn games in the cheerleading section so they could sit there and watch me.
But they won't be in attendance for this Iron Bowl to cheer on their team or their son.
They had 5 tickets and they sold them because they didn't know what they were going to do if they actually went to the game. The fans going for Alabama, but they're glad that I'm there also.
For the Red Zone, I'm Nick Goulis.
For those of you wondering how he gets through an entire game, 2 things: cough drops and water. That's the key, guys.
That's it. Just cough drops and water. It's so cool that his family is such great Alabama fans and they bought Auburn tickets. That's just awesome.
All about that support. Gotta love the family support. Now we got more of the Red Zone when we come up. We got Teddy Money. I like to call him Teddy Money.
You have so many nicknames for this guy.
I know. It's great. He's going to give us our weather forecast when we return.
Looks like we're going to get really lucky with this weather. Shouldn't be a factor, and if you're Alabama, that's good because the underdog is always the one that benefits from bad weather with the threat of turnovers. But we're not experts when it comes to weather, so I think we should just be safe and check one more time.
One more time to T-Mac, Teddy touchdown, Teddy money. Give us that forecast.
Ted Diamond, I prefer. You know my love of Neil Diamond. But it's going to be a great day for two of the greatest college football teams in a state that just loves football. Let's go on out and show you some of the temperatures outside. Well, it's warm. How about that? Talk about great state for football. A great day of weather for the state of Alabama. Mid-70s in Tuscaloosa, low 70s in Auburn. That cold front, whew, it's cold off to the north and west. That's going to hold off, and so is all this rain on Storm Track, satellite, and radar. The rain is about the state line up by Tennessee and Mississippi. We are seeing some clouds filtering in, but that's about it. Auburn looks pretty good, just some high wispy clouds moving through the area. We do have some sunshine in the Birmingham area. However, the Storm Track Futurecast looks pretty good all the way through the game. You see the clouds starting to build in late in the game, but I really think we stay dry and mostly sunny through most of the game here. So here's a look at our Iron Bowl forecast as we head out to Jordan-Hare. We're looking at warm conditions, 73 by kickoff, 70 at halftime, dry, and that's awesome, and 63 degrees by the fourth quarter. It's an absolutely gorgeous day for football. In fact, today has been better than the first 3 weeks of football where we had all the storms. And I know Lauren and Chris, you were dealing with all the rain, especially that day out at Athens. It was a drench fest out there.
Well, Chris, no.
Oh, okay, thanks for raining on my parade. Anyway, yeah, no doubt that this is unusual for this time of year. When you think Iron Bowl, you think grit, you think cold, 40 degrees. In late November, and these guys, in-state guys, it's so fun to have them talk about family and friends this week in particular.
Well, and for Alabama linebacker Reggie Ragland, it all starts with first and foremost turning off that cell phone. All right, well, we got a lot of guys that go behind the scenes, all the work that they do. We want to give some thank yous out here. We got a lot of guys on the ground here at Auburn. Our crew here works very hard to make sure we're polished, we're smooth. Yeah, it kind of looks like Fort Knox out here, but it's pretty cool. We're soundproof. Scott McDowell running the camera, Al Ratcliffe running the truck, Dave Holland directing the show for us, Nick Goulas, Marcus Stroud, Marlon Price, Kerry Robinson, and Zach McDowell all stationed around the stadium.
Plus, back here on the Red Zone pregame show, Chris Brees, Lauren Sisler. We are oh so close to kickoff, getting close to an hour, 2:30 here on WIAT 42. We've been talking about it for 2 hours, all the concepts, everything about this game both teams have to do. I think for Alabama, the big thing, you look at the one game they lost, everyone talks about the mistakes against Ole Miss, 5 turnovers. You got to think it's going to be difficult for them to lose if they don't make mistakes.
And Alabama will also need to put together some of those explosive plays. Nick Saban has seen those. He says he wants to see more of those. Can they run the football, but a few big bang plays, the catalyst in putting this thing to bed early. Auburn, they need to get some pressure on Jake Coker if they want to get him out of his comfort zone.
And if they can't run the ball, they might be in serious trouble. We've got plenty more coming up after the game. The Red Zone post-game show will be on from 6 to 7 o'clock. And then after that, we are back for another hour live from 10 to 11 p.m. to wrap up the entire day's coverage of college football, the Iron Bowl. This is the one that these guys are playing for. So we will see you with thoughts after the game, 6 to 7, to hear from Gus Malzahn and Nick Saban live on the air. For Lauren Sisler, Chris Wrinkle, the rest of our crew, I'm Chris Brees. We'll see you after the game. Frosty, the snowman, is next. We'll see you at 6 o'clock.